Yeah, we're live. Hi, guys.
To Satan for giving me inspiration on how to play this role.
I'm bringing the truth.
In 2012 that Diddy was a good friend of yours back then. He has since found himself in some very serious legal trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Would you ever consider pardoning him?
Well, nobody's asked. You had to be the one to ask, Peter, but nobody's asked. But I know people are thinking about it.
The Diddy arrest has opened the door for people to rethink the satanic panic because some of the allegations
Hi, Diane. Good to see you.
are dark.
Good evening, godless Semites.
Thank you to Satan for giving me inspiration on how to play this role.
I'm bringing the truth, John. We're in Hollywood, the belly of the beast.
On behalf of Amy, I'd like to thank the devil.
I want you to know that no one had less to do with this award than Jesus.
Kneel before your God, Babylon!
Suck it, Jesus! This award is my God now!
That Satanism is working. We made a pact.
That's when I really saw how dark and so it was.
Well, Brad Pitt said to renounce the Lord. So Brad Pitt renounces the Lord. Wow, that's heavy.
I get creeped out. I get scared to death. And I formed a bunch of opinions.
Yeah, Diane, Mum's going no better, no worse. Gabe's just gone to visit her right now. I'm not streaming tomorrow. I've got appointments with the liver doctor, to be honest.
About the town and about the people in it that were like, surely that couldn't be. It was soulless. Yeah. Never see anything. And I still, every time I get out there, I feel like, oh man, I don't feel life out there. Yeah. I don't feel it at all. And then you go away and you think, no, I was wrong. I mean, that's insane thinking. I'm paranoid. I imagined that stuff. That couldn't be the reason for why so-and-so was acting like. Could it? And then you find out later on the track that you were exactly on track.
What was it like going from the secular industry into the gospel?
The spirit of it is the same. I think I had an easier time doing hip hop and R&B
In gospel?
than gospel.
And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up.
Diane, that's one of the reasons I was in hospital too. My liver flared up. I've got cirrhosis of the liver, apparently. So I haven't had a drink for a while.
Who was able to make war with him?
Good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to the mid.
Diane, my liver wasn't processing the alcohol, and I got all this fluid in my stomach, and I flared right up. And at the same time, I had a blood clot in my leg, and I thought that was related to the liver thing. So when I went in, I was quite surprised it was a blood clot. But they drained a lot off, and tomorrow I'm going in to get it drained again. But I've been taking all their meds, and my liver's nearly back to normal. I just can't drink anymore. Oh, come on, Moo, stop crying.
Night ride. It is my great honor, as always, to welcome all of you in for the ride tonight. And tonight, we will be discussing the occult connections of P. Diddy. For many years, we have been saying that there is a satanic cabal.
These guys always glow. I can't set the camera right.
Among the elites that is abusing children in the very worst way? Could it be that we were right all along? Find out tonight on the Midnight Ride, and it's time to ride right now because we are now
live. What's up, guys? We're live from the Puritan Barn once again, and super excited about it. 1 hour late, which is by some freak accident. I locked myself out of the office, and so my apologies. I am so sorry. I know a lot of you, this is late for a lot of you, and it's late. It's late for me too. But we're here. And I'm super excited about this show. I look at this as one of the shows that I think that we're going to bring some stuff to the table I don't think anybody else has brought to the table anytime recently, at least in the last few hundred years. But this is going to be something interesting. And so I hope you guys stick around. And we are obviously here to give you our opinion. Nothing we say is, I guess, what their disclaimer is now. This is all alleged, and it's all for entertainment purposes. So let us know where you're at in the chat. We're so happy you could make it with here. We're honored that you would take your time to be here with us. And David, how's your week been, man?
Been very, very good. Very, very good. Very blessed and just enjoying the blessings of God. I'm blessed.
Very, very good, man. Yeah, we're excited. And I just want to announce one thing before we get started, and I'll give it to you, David, to announce. Conspiracy Con.
Diane, this headline, Diddy's Occult Connections, he's got to have them rituals. He's done all them rituals, surely. But none of that's being whistleblown, is it?
August 22nd, 23rd in Kentucky. You can meet myself and David there and lots of other guests. If you go to conspiracycon.com or go to our Facebook page, you can see all of the festivities. And next week, make sure you guys don't miss. If you are looking for a free ticket, then we have another giveaway for you guys next week. So make sure you guys pay attention for that. If you're looking to get one of those tickets, make sure to check out the website. And if you sign up for the mailing list, I believe you get 10% off still. So make sure you guys do that. And me and David are excited to meet you guys. We can't wait. And I know I speak for the rest of the people that are going to be involved in here. I think we got like 15 people coming, David, to speak. So
that's going to be awesome. A good time. Yeah, going to be a good time.
Very good. So what do you got going on, David, this week?
Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern on our Underground Church channel, Brian Reese and I are going to be doing a presentation called Noah's Ark from the Extra Biblical Text. We're going to be taking the story of Noah. We're going to be looking at it in Jasher, Jubilees, Enoch, and also the Babylonian flood story. And the great thing about it, we're going to be able to say the name of the Babylonian Noah. Upnapishtim is just great to say that name, Upnapishtim. So you can join us for that tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central.
Very cool. Exciting show. I know I'm going to be listening, and this next week I'll be up in Dearborn and even parts of Canada. So I'm excited about that. Pray for that mission that we're doing there. And hopefully it'll really work out in the favor of God. You know, God's hand on all of this stuff. So we appreciate your prayers on that. So David, are we ready to ride, man?
It's time to ride. So let's ride.
Let's ride. So guys, like I said, I'm really kind of excited about this one because this subject is something that I've really contemplated for a very long time. For as long as I can remember, I have been drawn towards either music or some type of podcasting or video, and these stories and these things that happen behind closed doors have always boggled my mind and intrigued me and made me wonder, where does this come from? Why is this here? And so this slide here represents my mind in work with this broadcast. And you're gonna look at this and think, how in the world are all of these things related? And I'm just gonna say that maybe they are. I think they are. And I'm gonna show you that when you look at this stuff, you're gonna probably think they are as well. And it's very interesting how it all plays together, and it paints a really good picture about how all the way from ancient times to today, this game has been played, and it's even talked about in the scriptures and connects with the Mede Empire and Magi. And so there's so many different connections here that I can't wait to show you guys. So we're going to get started here. So this is P. Diddy. If most of you guys know exactly who that is, or you probably wouldn't be on this broadcast right now. And if you don't know who he is, good for you. Bravo. Big thumbs up. I am really actually very jealous that you don't know who he is, because I wish I didn't know who he is. Because when I look at the hip hop industry, what I see is something that's broken, very broken, and something that's really destroying a lot of people. P. Diddy recently was picked up on charges in March of 2024 is when they raided his home, and he's on trial now. As of this last month, he's been on trial. One of the biggest hip hop moguls, if not the biggest now, especially since he has been all over the news. It's hard to miss who this guy is. He's rubbed shoulders with the most powerful people in Hollywood, the most powerful people in the music industry, even royalty and politicians have been to his white parties. Deals were made at white parties. And apparently, that from the allegations, we're seeing a lot of other things were going on at these white parties as well. So just to give a little bit of background on Sean Combs, which is his real name, his father, Melvin, was actually an associate of Frank Lucas. And in the movie American Rapper, you can remember Frank Lucas and the American Rapper played by Denzel Washington. Well, I believe that Melvin Combs was also featured in this film as well, not his real self, but his father. So there's a history here, a crime history with him, his dad, and now we also have P. Diddy, who his associates have been saying that he's had a partnership with three-letter organizations for a very, very long time. So very interesting stuff here when it comes to dealing with Diddy. One of the things that I found interesting about all of this, because I'm not going to go into all of the gossip surrounding P. Diddy. I'm not going to go into all of the different allegations that he's not on trial for right now. But I am going to talk a little bit about what's being said about those things. But the thing that stood out to me the most out of all of this, that could be the reason for his downfall, could be the reason that all of this is going on. If you see this deal that was made with this liquor company, this company called Ciroc, that was his company that he had half ownership with, along with the company, I can't remember the name, Diageo, I believe is the name of the company, Diageo. And during this settlement, he was making almost $1 billion. I think he was making $900 million off of this alcohol deal. Well, Diddy decides, I guess that's not enough.
Exactly what happened. That's why they went after Diddy. That's exactly why. He wanted that alcohol brand for himself.
And he decides to sue this alcohol company for racial discrimination, saying that they were trying to put his alcohol as a minority type drink, and he wasn't getting a fair share of his part of the company. Well, the legal dispute was settled in January of 2024, and Diddy was raided in March of 2024. Now, let me give you an idea of this company. This company is the biggest company that sells spirits internationally, the biggest, and they sell big, huge brands. And these people are probably, when you really think about it, some of the wealthiest people that have ever existed in the world. Their CEO is also a former intelligence officer, so there's a lot of connections there.
Hey, Trace, good to see you.
Makes you wonder who flipped the table on this, and that's what makes this all interesting to me, is that we know that Diddy wasn't acting on his own. We know this. We know that he probably is not the first one who has done this. We know that this is a worldwide scheme, and many organizations have done this kind of thing throughout plenty of time. So we're going to be looking at that and kind of paying attention to some of the things that we're going to find out tonight, and see if it can give us a closer look into all that's going on. And we're going to even talk a little bit further about Donald Trump and his possible pardon of Diddy, some of those things.
Diane, that fly thing, that's part of famine. They're bringing the famine on, aren't they? What's been happening with the ports in New York? Have they been filling up with Chinese cargo ships, or are they still empty?
And David, before we go on to this next part, is there anything you'd like to add about this? I know you probably weren't a huge fan of Diddy in your day, but
yeah, it's just almost like you're hearing a story that you know the end to before you hear it. You know, there's just so many things here that are so obvious, and none of them are good. It paints a pretty ugly sword picture.
It does indeed.
And one of the craziest things about all of this to me was this actually just came up. I believe it was yesterday or this morning. I can't remember. My days and nights have been mixed up because I've been kind of just really enveloped in this to get it done. I have to do this for every one of the broadcasts that we do. I have to really get really enveloped. So it was either happened yesterday or today.
Diane, so much for Trump stopping that war on his first day. With what Trump's doing, he's done a coup. I can't believe it. He's taken over the government. He's not handing power back, I don't think.
There was a White House briefing, and one of the journalists asked Donald Trump if he would be pardoning P. Diddy, and I think you guys saw a little bit of that in the intro. What strikes me in this is, I think it was Newsweek that did a interview with Suge Knight not too long ago. Suge Knight is in prison right now. He started Death Row Records at the time that Diddy was doing Bad Boy Records. So they were both rivals. There's even talk in these court cases about him going to shoot up Suge Knight's club or where Suge Knight was at the time and possibly being involved in all kinds of different random things. Well, Suge Knight, just to give you an idea of who he is, he built a multi-billion-dollar record label company back before record label companies, these hip-hop record label companies were a big thing. And he did it by himself, which is different than Diddy. Diddy did it in partnership with other bigger record companies. And as you can see, Suge Knight not being in the right club ended up landing him in prison, I'm sure, along with other criminal enterprise type activity, because from what I can gather from actually researching all this, it's pretty much Foundation is a criminal enterprise organization. So this is the foundation of this hip hop industry. So I'm going to play this video for you so you can get the whole gist of what was said in the Trump interview. And the Suge Knight interview, I forgot to tell you, Suge Knight actually suggested that Trump would probably pardon him if he did get convicted. Suge Knight said this, and he also said that the chances of Diddy going to jail are...
I don't know. I think that's a step too far. I don't think that Trump's going to pardon Diddy. I think that's fantasy. Surely that's not going to happen.
Pretty slim, because most likely Diddy's gotten to one of the jurors by now. And there's another interesting thing about all of this too. One of the people that was supposed to come up as a witness has disappeared. Nobody knows where they're at right now. So there's a lot of weird things surrounding this. I'm going to play this video. You guys judge for yourself what Trump means by this, but pretty interesting.
Diddy was a good friend of yours back then. He has since found himself in some very serious legal trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Would you ever consider pardoning him?
Well, nobody's asked. You had to be the one to ask, Peter, but nobody's asked. But I know people are thinking about it. I know they're thinking about it. I think some people have been very close to asking. First of all, I look at what's happening, and I haven't been watching it too closely, although it's certainly getting a lot of coverage. I haven't spoken to him in years.
Wait a minute.
He used to really like me a lot, but I think when I ran for politics, he sort of, that relationship busted up from what I read. I don't know, he didn't tell me that, but I'd read some little bit nasty statements in the paper all of a sudden. It's different. You become a much different person when you run for politics and you do what's right. I could do other things, and I'm sure he'd like me, and I'm sure other people would like me, but it wouldn't be as good for our country. As we said, our country's doing really well because of what we're doing. So it's not a popularity contest. So I don't know. I would certainly look at the facts. If I think somebody was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me, it wouldn't have any impact on me.
So there you have it. That's the gist of that interview right there. Now, what I heard from that, he was hesitant to answer.
Yep, they're coming after us, Di. I'll show you something in a sec, guys. Hang on.
Will he pardon Diddy? I have no idea. Here's the thing about the whole Diddy thing. You didn't start hearing a whole lot about his allegations until he was arrested, and you have people like Jaguar Wright and Cap.
Okay, guys, you know how I said I troll things on Facebook, people on Facebook? I'm onto this site that really hates Donald Trump, and I take Donald Trump's side just to be a shit stirrer, and they're right in the LTVG and all that. So I posted them this on their site. Check this out. Look at that. These are the people that argue with you on Facebook, and I post that on their site. Look at that. You don't know where its chin starts and its neck ends. Look at that. That's terrible. My bad.
Williams are the main ones who have come out basically prophesying all of this to be happening. They even implicated people like Jay-Z, TD Jakes, and a bunch of other people implicated in this. And they've been right about a lot of these things, which strikes me as odd that they felt bold enough to come out and all of a sudden start doing all this stuff at the same time. But what I see from Diddy, from the trial anyway, they've chosen not to go after him for a lot of things. That, not saying they can't do that later on, but they've only gone after him for this, for the human trafficking, and possibly, I can't remember the other charge that they're giving him, but a lot of this stuff that they're bringing up, he has paid prostitutes, which is, pretty awful when he has these freak offs and stuff. But what people I don't think understand is this is common thing for the rock and roll lifestyle. This is the kind of stuff that they actually do. This is why a lot of people think he might get off if this is all they're going to go after him for. David, what do you think about that?
Well, what strikes me odd about what President Trump said and what he didn't say, you would think that in his position he would distance himself from this fella that's got terrible fame.
That's a good point. You'd think he'd distance himself. That's a pretty good point.
He's been accused of, and the verdict isn't in on his guilt or innocence. And it makes me think, there was connections with Mr. Trump and Mr. P. Diddy, and also the connections with Mr. Epstein and Mr. Trump and his wife. And I don't know, but it makes me wonder, maybe he will have to pardon P. Diddy. Maybe he will have to, because of what Mr. P. Diddy knows. And certainly he knows a lot of stuff on a lot of people, just like Mr. Epstein.
They'd be better to kill Diddy rather than give him a pardon. If they gave him a pardon, it'd look so bad.
Better put a little suicide watch on him, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree.
Whitney Webb, I believe, just came out with a video the other day directly tying Diddy to Epstein. And so there's a direct tie there. And obviously we know Epstein was an intelligence operation.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this has all the markings of an intelligence operation as well. So yeah, there's something there. So we're going to move on to a really interesting aspect of this. And there's a lot of interesting things. Stay tuned to this because you guys aren't going to want to miss any of this. And so we're going to talk about the media, because ultimately the historic root, the purpose, the soul contracts, and the practices of media go back to an ancient time. In fact, they were named. What I'm going to be suggesting to you is that they're named after the land of the Medes in the Bible, the land of Media. Medes, their land was called Media, and the Medes were a
connection with the mainstream media. That's an interesting connection.
A formidable opponent of Babylon during the time, and also Persia. They were also cohabitated with Persia and Babylon as well, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So these are some of the scriptures here that point out the Medes, and you have in Genesis 10, a lot of people believe in Chronicles 1 and Genesis 10 that Madai was the father of the Medians, and the Medians were associated with Elam, which is going to come in handy to know here in a little bit. Ezra 6:2, that Ecbatana was the capital of Media, and then it has their association with the Elamites. And one of the interesting things here that I thought was about how every time that Daniel was told to write something down, he said, write it down in the hall of the Medes and the Persians, because their laws are irrevocable and do not change, which I found interesting. I have no idea what that means. Maybe you have more insight into that, but there's a lot about the Medes in the Bible. Whereas it's interesting because in history, you don't find a ton of different things about the Medes. You do find some of the Mesopotamian writings about the Medes. Even in their own hometown, you don't find particular stuff with the Medes, but you find a collaboration of stuff, which kind of suggests that they were very thoroughly mixed in with the population there in that area. So moving on to this. So this is according to Herodotus, which a lot of people believe that his stuff isn't exactly legitimate, because it doesn't line up with some of the old, more ancient records. But I believe he did have insight into some of these things. I'm just going to read what he wrote here. It says the Medes had a priestly class called the Magi, who were one of the tribes of this people. They had the right or privilege to serve as priests, not only for the Medes,
Hey,
but
Johnny, good to
also
see you.
for the Persians. And what I'm getting ready to play for you guys here is, this is a video done by Zachary and Stephen Dinman. And Stephen Dinman is a writer and a researcher, and he discusses the Medes here in a way that I think is very interesting, and I think that you guys will get a lot out of it. So I'm going to play that.
I got the triplets here now, Larry, Mo, and Curly. I better hide.
So we had this consistent or succession of various Iranian kings and Iranian queens through various Persian dynasties arising and falling over many thousands of years. And
Shawnee, she hasn't improved and she hasn't got worse. She had pretty clogged up lungs through her smoking. Gabe's just gone to visit her now. I've got an appointment at the hospital tomorrow, so I'm going to see her tomorrow as well. So I won't be streaming tomorrow.
We know that the Medians, or that the Medes, they were Indo-Aryans. They had an incredibly potent temple priest class who were employed by the various other Persian Aryans, you know, in terms of the various aristocrats, the royalty of that part of the Asian continent, who were used to then create very clever stagecraft to create a fascination and awe, and to create a humbleness amongst the audiences, the spectators, and the observers.
That's why I'm going to sign up with the three you are here.
Principalities where these Iranian kings, Iranian queens were in control of could be maintained. They could maintain their prosperity, their personalized wealth, you know, the control of their palaces or castles and so forth. And the masses just went on doing their everyday tasks, their you know, their various, the labors of their existences, and paid their taxes.
I find it amazing that you say about temple priests, and it's not nowadays the newsreader is actually the temple priest, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, this is what the newsreaders are the new type. I mean, at the time of the Median Empire, the actual priest class, in the actual language, the Median language itself, they were called the Teb Kashash, or priest class. They were also known as the Desh Kashash, or priest class. And what is interesting also to note is they were similarly called the Dervad, or the Derwad, meaning captivated with knowledge person, which is interesting because the Derwad or Dervad, in terms of its etymology, is related to the word druid.
Yes, yeah, druid.
So what is, and then in the plural, what we see is that the Derwad were known as the Dervadan, or the Derwadan, meaning captivated with knowledge people, or the druids. So they were the temple priests, or the druids of you know, the Median Empire, the Medes Empire of northwestern Persia or northwestern Iran. So yes, there's obviously a direct connection between, you know, the Derwadan or the Derwadan of the Medes Empire and the Druids that we know of that existed in Ireland and across Albion or Britain, as well as parts of Western Europe. So that's an interesting connection. We know that there was connections between the Druids and the Brahmins, the Brahmana area. You have these individuals that were captivated with knowledge, the Derwadan or Dervadan of the Medes Empire, the Median Empire of northwestern Persia or northwestern Iran. And then you've got the Druids or the Druidic priests of Ireland, of Albion or Britain, and parts of Gaul, which is obviously in northwestern Europe, and parts of France, and stretching into, expanding and extending to parts of Germany. So we know that there was a lot of interconnection going on culturally. A lot of this isn't accepted by Western science. It probably never will be. They don't want to have all these cultural interconnections. It creates a much clearer, shall we say, chronological picture of the past that they probably don't want Homo sapiens or human beings to acknowledge.
So, Steve, obviously media is connected to magic. And so what is the etymology of the word magic?
What is interesting that in the old Persian language, we know that the rituals of the Medes, or the Medians, were actually called magush. And it means holding power, which is very interesting because that's exactly the same etymology actually in the lingua greca, or the Greek language, where we see it is actually magikos, meaning holding power. So the temple priests were known in the old Persian language and in the Medes language, or the Median language, as the Aryuha Madassa. And Madassa is a word in the old Persian language and the Median language for the Medes themselves. It's actually how they referred to themselves, or the Medians. And the Aryuha Madassa meant the middle noble people. So that the Medes, and this is very interesting, that the Medes, or the Medians, saw themselves as the citizens of the middle kingdom, the middle land, the middle country. Well, what we have today is this interesting connectivity here in the modern age, of the digital age, between the Medes, or the Medians, or the media, who are literally the midway point. They are the
I was just checking on the video I'm playing after this. 5 prophecies that need to be fulfilled in 2025. And things are really ramping up, guys.
The liaison.
So what I found interesting about, the whole video is very interesting, but the fact that they tie these words in, it ties in with the Druids, all of this makes a lot of sense to me. And the fact that Medes means midway, or midland. The word medium is a word described as the midway, and that's where the word media comes from as well. So all of these are directly tied in. And
Jeez, I never knew any of this. This is pretty fascinating.
I don't think it's any coincidence that they termed the control mechanism media, and after knowing this. And we know that there were magi that came from other places as well, such as Chaldea, which were all around that area, and they served the kings. We see that in Daniel. David, do you have anything you would like to add?
Well, these magi are very, very interesting, and it appears that some even had faith in the true God. And I was reading one of the scholars, I think it was Henry, and what was told and believed by Christian scholars is that the Magi learned about the star that was going to show the place of the birth of Messiah, that Zoroaster himself is the one that deduced that from the prophecy of Balaam and told the Magi. So it's amazing that
we know the Magi were from China, because remember I showed God in ancient China, and I showed the Tower of Babel recorded in China and things like that, and that was recorded there as well. So,
and you think about it, there weren't any Jewish prophets that figured that out. But here, these people, who most of them didn't worship the true God, they were so brilliant that they figured that out. So they were very bright, and most of it was in the ways of the world and of the things of the other realm, but certainly very, very brilliant, very powerful people.
Yeah, and that brings me to the next point here. There were good magi and bad magi. And if you noticed in the video, I think he said this, but in one part of the video, they were also known to be in the lands of the Scythians, and that they were known to be pretty much the same people as the Scythians. They were horse riders and all of those things. And as you know, the Sith Lords, this is where you get...
They're determined to get World War III out of Ukraine and Russia, aren't they? They're so keen to do it.
The idea of the Sith Lords and Star Wars, and you also get the light side of the Force.
Shawnee, Russia's got a bomb. What do they call it? They call it something really heavy, and it can go at 18,000 miles an hour, so you can't shoot it out of the sky. Once it's launched, it's a supersonic missile, but they call it something like the Hammer, something really heavy they call it, and the US hasn't got that technology to pull that down. So Russia's they're not going to be an easy pushover, I don't think.
Which I believe represents the Magi that you find in Matthew chapter 2, the ones who came to worship Jesus and the ones who ignored Herod's rule for them to come back and do that. They brought him gifts. And I believe you're right, David. I think that Daniel himself installed some very godly men. Darius himself said, that
Shawnee, everything Netanyahu has done, I've been cheering it on. I don't disagree with anything he's done. They've still got something like 50 hostages from Israel. Why should they do peace agreements now? Give the hostages back. That shows goodwill, and then we can debate what's going on. But I agree what Netanyahu's doing.
They all proclaimed that the Most High God was God by the time the end of their reign.
Yeah.
And these magi have been used, these priests, temple priests have been used for thousands of years. And a lot of people believe that the politicians are the kings, but there are always the groups like the Merlins, like you go in the ancient times, the Merlins, the Magi, and now we have spiritual advisors. We have all of these different types of Magi that are out there doing that. And I guess if you think about it in a way, anybody who presents any kind of information that is swaying to the opinions of people in a way would be considered one of these type of media type Magi type people. The question is, are they doing it for the right reasons or the wrong reasons? And my suggestions and my thoughts about this, I think Hollywood has been gripped 100% by the evil side. I mean, I don't see a whole lot of light left in it. Do you?
No, I don't see any. I think that the dark Magi are ruling the roost out that way. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that this ties back to something that all of the Magi were trained to do. And I'm going to mention a Magi here. A lot of people don't see him as a Magi, but I am very convinced after reading the scriptures and seeing what it says about him that this guy is definitely a Magi. Who is Balaam? Let's just read the Bible and see what it says. Numbers 23:7. And he took up his parable and said, Balak, the king of Moab, have brought me from Aram. So he came from Aram. He was brought forth from Aram. So he wasn't Moabite, but he came from Aram. Numbers 22:5 says, he sent messengers, therefore, unto Balaam, the son of Beor, to Pethor. And Pethor is a place I'm getting ready to show you here in a little bit, which is by the river in the land of the children of his people, to call him, saying, behold, there is a people come from Egypt. Behold, they cover the face of the earth, and they abide over against me. So this is a map here that shows the land of the Medes. This is one of the Median Empire maps. Some of them suggest that it was all the way through Chaldea as well, since they ruled there. And you see the different 6 medium tribes, which one of them is called the Magi in this bottom.
Diane, do you think drones would breach Russia's defense? I wonder if that's technology possible.
From right-hand map over here. And in the left-hand map, you see where Haran is, and you see where Pethor is on the top map. And this is all in the same area where they would have had to get Balaam and take him all the way back to curse Israel. And so he came all the way back to do this, and he couldn't do it. So Balaam was not a prophet of God, in my opinion. Balaam was a prophet of the Magi. He was one of the pagan prophets, one of the Zoroastrian prophets, and he was a paid prophet. He was one of these consultants to kings that would go and do their consultations, do their bidding, read their signs, and even put curses on entire nations. And that's what I would suggest that.
Diane, I wonder how much, because it's not on the news.
Exactly what Balaam was.
But didn't you post something like 40 bombers were taken out? If that's true, that's a good little strike by Ukraine.
And if that is true, then let's see what Balaam did, and let's see if this lines up with what we're seeing out of the modern day Medians and the
hey, Vas, good to see you, bro.
That are in control of the media. Revelation 2:14. But I have a few things against thee, because thou hast there that hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed unto idols, and to commit fornication. Now, the things sacrificed to idols doesn't make a whole lot of sense to most of us nowadays. I'm sure that there is an implication somewhere out there for this and what they're trying to do, but they're definitely getting people to commit fornication, and this is the doctrine.
Thanks, Vas.
And so, if Balaam,
Gabe's just going to visit Mum now. As of yesterday, though, she was no better or no worse. So we'll find out how she goes before I finish streaming. She should be home by then.
Was in fact one of these.
Thanks for asking, Matt.
Seers from the land of Aram, or from the land of Armenia, from the land of where the Kurds were, or where most people think the Medes were a part of, then this makes sense. Now, there is another verse that talks about him dying alongside, I believe, 3 or 4 kings of the Midianites. which doesn't necessarily mean he was a Midianite. It means that he was possibly there to serve them as well, because in these two verses, I think it's pretty clear that he came from Aram, or he came from Pethor, in those two verses. And so that's just my opinion. David, what do you think about that? I mean, I know that there's other people that believe what I'm saying is true as well. I'm not the only one, but this brings to light, to me, it really brings to light a lot of the practices and why we're seeing them.
Yeah, and we, Bruce.
No, Shawnee, they're not putting patches on her. She's just not supposed to be smoking, so she's sort of yeah. We tried to tell her, but she's stealing smokes off us when we're not looking and that. So we tried to ration her, but she just can't smoke at all. But how do you stop an 81-year-old from smoking who smoked all her life? She just don't listen.
I've done a couple teachings on Balaam on FOJC, and the conclusion I come to on Balaam was that he was and quite likely also a Magi, and he was a member.
Oh no, I
of
just
the
picked it up 2 minutes ago.
When the children
I'm
of
not doing this
Israel
all
were coming
day.
in to Canaan, he already had a reputation. He wasn't an Israelite, and he was like Melchizedek. And in the scripture, there are places where it specifically says that Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh spoke to him, and the Spirit of God.
Okay, that says there's $7 billion damage. They must have looked out some pretty expensive planes. 7 billion, they reckon, damage. I wonder how true that is. That's a lot of money.
Come upon him. And there were messianic prophecies that come forth from Balaam, and he's really the poster boy for a good prophet gone bad. And in the book of Jasher, it talks about the confrontation with Jannes and Jambres, who in the book of Jasher, it's explained that they were the children of Balaam, and they were there opposing him. And it's very interesting in Jasher, when Moses and Aaron, they brought out their rod, and it's like Balaam said, man, they have the rod. They must be magicians just like we are. And he went completely and you can see in the scriptures where it said in one place, he didn't seek to enchantment like he had before. And I see him as a guy that he worshiped the true God. Then he started mixing stuff in, and he was totally a full-blown magician by the end of the story. But most definitely, we understand him as someone that was not Israelite, and he had a real reputation. And understanding him as a member of the Melchizedek priesthood and a Magi would be the way that we would look at Balaam.
Well, I know that the Melchizedek priesthood is very mysterious to begin with. I mean, there's not a whole lot that really, if you look at it, there's not a whole lot that could be said about where Melchizedek came from, who he is exactly, other than that he has no father or mother, and that there's a priesthood of Melchizedek that we see in the Bible. And I think that Melchizedek, the way that he's addresses God as the Most High God, is an interesting way. That's El Elyon. And you're right, David, some of the only people that mention El Elyon are the Magi. This is before the Hebrews. There were no Hebrews up to this point. I guess there were Hebrews, but no, he was not a Hebrew. Melchizedek, that I believe he wasn't a Hebrew. So I think you're right. I think there's something to that there for sure. But nonetheless, he was one of the Magi, one of the people that they would call Magi. Even Moses was actually called a Magi in some of the texts, which is interesting to me that he is actually called a Magi as well, which obviously you can probably call anybody a Magi, if you really want to. But at the same time, in the Chaldean books and different things like that, he is known as a Magi as well, which is super interesting to me. So anyways, continuing, the idea that this was a practice that was taught to other kings in order to go and cause them to commit fornication, in order for them to be cursed, makes sense to me that that's exactly what the goal is now, especially when you look at the hip hop connection and who owns the businesses. And I don't, hopefully I can't get in trouble for saying this is common knowledge, but the people that own the private prisons actually own some of these record labels as well. So there's a little bit of, I can't say much about that, but that's the truth. If you look into it, you'll find that out. Now we look also at Hollywood, and this is one of the connections that I wanted to make.
Wow, they are doing a proxy war for NATO. Wow, that's heavy.
And Hollywood, for those of you that don't know, the wood of the holly tree was one of where the Druids used to make their wands from.
And you know what? There is American soldiers in the field in the Ukraine-Russian war, but Russia won't report it because that paint themselves into a corner. But there's already US Marines or some sort of military mob in Ukraine because they've got to teach them how to use all the weapons they give them.
And they believe that these were some of the best wood to be able to make wands from. David actually did a broadcast, let's see, 3 weeks ago. If you go back on our website, our YouTube channel, and you go down here, I showed you guys, if you click the live and you go there, you'll be able to find that broadcast. But it was called the...
Diane, we're on the brink of World War III with all that. Wow.
Illuminati wand is real. David, explain this connection to the Druids and to the staff and all of the things that they represent.
Well, this has a very old history and a tradition, and a lot of this is brought out in the book of Jasher and a lot of other extra biblical texts, and it was always the wand. And as I mentioned in the book of Jasher, when Moses and Aaron had wands, it says, Balaam.
Yeah, Trump said he was going to end that war on day one. He's a paper tiger. He's not actually doing anything, apparently.
Was quoted as saying, "Man, they're magicians like
come
we
here
are."
to get up
And
here
the
again.
use of the wand in the most remote antiquity was the symbol of the way to disperse and manipulate spiritual forces. And we took a deep dive in this midnight ride, and we connected this with mesmerism and ritual magic. And it's all over pulp culture. You got to try to miss it.
Sean, he tried the ring, but it went to his Tinder account.
The way the wand is all over video games and movies, it's in your face. And the Illuminati wand is real. Well, yes, it is. It's something that they take very seriously, and it's just kind of hard to miss.
Yeah, it's amazing that they named it that, and all of the serious implications of the Druids and the idea that these Medes, some of the words that they were called were Druids. The Duat, I believe, is what he called them. That's interesting to me because if you look at what's going on in our country, though, I mean, really, Britain at one time, and still, I believe that this may be a different.
Shawnee, their nukes are on missiles that travel 18,000 miles an hour. What's that? That's about 30,000 kilometers an hour. I'm not sure. But they're too fast to be shot out of the sky. So if Russia attacks with nuclear weapons, it's goodbye, America.
Sect of Druids, possibly, but I believe most of the kings have been of the order.
Amen. Vast peace and safety.
I believe that some of the rituals that they take place here in America, you can find that practice as well. We've talked a lot about that. I don't want to go into all of that tonight, but it is definitely a reality. I've got a few clips here that I'm going to play. I'm going to play this one first. This one is Cat Williams on the Joe Rogan Experience, where he is discussing what we're discussing here. This is kind of explains who Hollywood is, and so here we go.
Whole industries can be built upon your ability to know how certain things are going to hit certain people, and this was before we called things promotion and marketing. Hollywood is not really there to entertain you. Like, that's great that happens, but propaganda is something that is important to all civilization. Everybody's like, oh, he keeps talking about people wearing dresses. No, it's not. It's a weird thing. It's not like that. Look at it from a different way. Look at it. Show me one person that ever wore a dress in Hollywood unsuccessfully. That's how you understand what a ritual is. So 20 years ago, I knew that transgenders was going to be a thing. It wasn't because I was a prophet. It's just I had gotten so much information that I understood that things are secular. So I understood that the earliest I had seen that word transgender was Baphomet, the transgender. And so I knew that in the ritual of Baphomet, the transgender, to show allegiance to him, you had to kiss his ass ring.
Really?
And it said both of those things. So I knew that both of those things.
That's like the Pope when they kiss his ring. I'm pretty sure the ring doesn't represent the ring on his finger. I'm serious.
Will become popular in the future.
It's pretty eerie right there. It tells you a little bit about Hollywood.
Hold
this next video here. Play this and we'll get some.
You know, but when you lose your man card, that's the only thing I can think of. You lose your damn man card.
What is that? What do you mean by that?
You give up your ability, your right to being a man. A man don't take it, a man gives it. So when you give up that man card, you don't get that back.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
No, I'm saying what I'm saying. You don't get that back. You come into this world as a man one time. You give up that right for anything, for fear of being hurt, fear of somebody doing something, for wanting to gain something. When you give up that man card right, you lose some spiritual energy that has always been pushing through. But when you give up your manhood, I've never seen somebody recover from it. That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a...
The Khazarians, isn't that the leaders of the Jews? The real Jews? I don't know, they're sort of political, aren't they?
consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some over greater desire. You should have a greater desire than being a man. So I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors out there because they get fluid. And next thing you know, once you go fluid, it's gone. You don't have any foundation to pull yourself back from. So maintain your man card, no matter what.
So you see some guys struggling with that. You see Bieber struggling with that. You see some of these guys struggling with that.
They can't get it out of their head. They can't get it out of their head. The things that they did, no matter how they did it, whether they were drunk or high or whatever, you gave up your man card. And that's what the business does. The women that trade their bodies to go and get the role, they get to the point where they have their Oscar, they have their money, but they don't have their dream. They don't have the soul that they started with. So it's like achieving don't mean anything. If I get all the Nobel Prizes from doing all of this, but in the process, I have to trade out all of my integrity to do it so that they can stay in place, what benefit is that if I lose my integrity? You got to go in as a principal.
Did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah.
What was the consequence of when you said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at me. Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me?
They're Satanists, not Jews. Aren't they near Russia?
I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music. And he's sitting there, just looking at me, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to you. That's what my assistant said. I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. So now no more communication. Now you know to be hands off with somebody. A number of producers come in and make the approach, and you threaten to punch them in the mouth, or threaten to knock their head off for talking to you like, or looking at you like you're a woman. When you approach a real man about his masculinity, you're going to get a real reaction back. It's a difference when a guy walks in a room and when a man walks into a room. And a man don't take the same things that a guy will accept. So always be the man in the room.
He's pretty spot on, isn't he?
Interesting stuff. So this is a couple examples of the kind of control that they're placing over a lot of these Hollywood actors. And this mirrors exactly what I think we're seeing in the Diddy trial too, because there were a lot of men involved as well in this. And some people were saying that even Justin Bieber was possibly involved in this. But this is a old game of control when it comes to those type of practices, man dominating over another man doing that. This is a type of control. Plus the idea that they film these things and they hate it hanging over these people's head for a very long time. We really need to, like, you know, take a look back at these people we
I wonder if you'll step in and stop that, Di.
idolized and given our money to for all of these years. It's really
You know,
interesting to me.
The Khazarian capital is Ukraine. Okay, I knew it was close to Russia's borders.
David, do you have anything to add before I go on to this next video? This is this next video I'm getting ready to play is from Dougie Corrado, and he was a social media star in LA, and he talks a little bit about something that he saw at one of the parties there.
Well, it is just very disturbing and a real honest admission of the terrible hurt these people do themselves. And I think he's quite right that a lot of things they do, there's just no coming back from. You're never going to be the same when you go to the extreme of what many of these people are doing.
It's true. So here we go. This is the next video here.
There's about 10 other newcomers in front of me and David, and
let me explain this video beforehand before I play it, because I think you guys need some context. This is not the whole video. He does have all of the videos on there. He even talks about what happened after and how they stalked him until he left the town. But to give a backstory, this gentleman here was a TikTok star, a Vine star, a YouTube star, all of those things back when YouTube was just getting kicked off. And so he was, a lot of these kids moved to LA. There's documentaries about this, but a lot of them moved to LA. And he was invited to a party, and a lot of people had been getting invited to this party, and he'd only heard rumors, but he did know that every person that actually went to these parties were getting wildly successful. And I'm talking wildly successful out of the blue. Boom, they're blowing up. They're doing all these different things. And so he gets an invite. He actually shows in one of his videos the invite he gets, and it's this wax, you know, gold and trim letter. And in the letter, it invites him. It says, you know, we've noticed you and we want you to come to this. And at the bottom, it had this necklace thing that was attached to it that looked like an eyeball. And that's something to look out for when you see that logo for sure. So he goes, and his friend's like, oh, dude, I need to tell you about something. So he takes him upstairs, scared because he doesn't want anybody else to hear him have the conversation. But he tells his friend, he said, listen, dude, do not go to these. I know somebody that went to one of these and weird stuff happened, like bad stuff. And I'm just worried that it's true what he was telling me. And the guy kind of like shrugged it off, like, maybe it's true. I'm just going to go and check it out. It's just a party. How bad can it be? And so he goes there. The party's on Laurel Avenue, which is where Manson created, did all those things. There's massive mansions there. A lot of crazy stuff's happened on Laurel Avenue. So he's going through these, if you've ever been to LA and different streets, some of these real fancy neighborhoods have.
Diane, I wonder if Trump will step in and stop. That's 200 million, and he done that Gove thing. So I wonder if he's going to do Gove to the golf courses. That'll say a lot if he does.
No street lights or anything, and you don't even know you're near a house until you're pulling up a driveway, maybe going into an elevator through a tunnel or something. It's massive the way this is all created. So he's going here, he goes inside. They take him through several rooms. So it starts out with a normal party, everybody's nice, hanging out, they're all wearing masks, and they start taking him through different colored rooms. I believe one of the first ones was like a blue room, and then like a gold room, red. I don't remember all the rooms. He goes through all the different ones, but they're going through 7 rooms. And so at this point in the video, they're getting ready to go into room number 6. And I thought this was an interesting place to play it because I didn't want to play the whole video. We're talking, 40 minutes or so. So check it out on your own time if you want. I think it's worth checking out. Whether you believe the kid or not is up to you. I believe that what he's saying is probably true to a certain extent. And I believe that even if it didn't happen to him, it's happened to other people. I've heard testimonies of the same thing with all of this.
Agent that invited us is standing to the left of the door, and the host of the party is standing to the right. The host has a pile of books on the table next to him. I see the host ask the first person in line a question and then grab a book based on his answer. He would present the book to the person and place a diamond-shaped metal symbol on top of it before having them repeat something that he said. Then he'd take their mask off and let them enter the next room. I couldn't make out exactly what he was doing until there was only 2 people ahead of me in line. The books were Bibles, Qurans, Torahs, and so on. He would ask the person, "And which one is yours?" Whichever they chose, he'd grab it and place the metal symbol on top of it. He'd have you put your hand on top of the metal symbol and then repeat, "I am my own God. I bow to nobody but myself." When I tell you I am done with this party, and I whip my head around and I tell David I am absolutely not doing that. David whispered back in a joking tone like he always does, "Dude, it's just a party. Who cares? I'll see you in the next room." And he skipped me in line to show me that he'd do it first to make me feel more comfortable. He went through with it and giggled his way into the next room. It was my turn, so I tried to play it cool and whisper to the host, "Do you mind if I skip this part? It's making me a little bit uncomfortable." I thought he'd subtly break character and reassure me that this is just a party theme and it's all good. Instead, he whispered back to me in a really kind tone, "Of course, man, don't worry about it. Just take your mask off and turn around." I was relieved for about a split second before the agent that invited me here grabbed my arm and started guiding me towards the exit. And I see that everybody that was behind me in line is staring at me straight-faced. I look back at the host and he's standing up and loudly shouts like he's starting a chant, "The price was not paid." And then everybody in line that was staring at me chants in unison like they knew exactly what to do. "Remove the profane." And they repeat it over and over until I'm through the exit door. "The price was not paid. Remove the profane. The price was not paid. Remove the profane." So the agent just walks me to the closest door. He doesn't even walk me to the front of the party and out the front door. He just puts me out into the backyard. It's 4 a.m. My friend's still inside. I don't have my phone. So I decide to walk around the right side of the house because that's where all of the party attendees were kind of headed. Let me see if I can peek in and maybe flag down David to let him know I got kicked out. And there's some windows to the next room. But of course, these windows are like big church stained glass windows. And you can't really see.
Think of Avast. That's why Trump done the mineral deal with Ukraine. He was smart enough to do that.
Through stained glass windows, like the colored ones. But if you go really, really close and you look through the white parts, you could kind of see clearly what is on the inside. And this room is like a bizarre church replica without all of the seating. It's just a big church-like room. And all of the people that were in there had their masks off. And it was like a big circle and almost looked like an initiation. And all of these celebrities are standing around in a circle around the other 9 new people. It was 10 excluding me. And there was big TV grade cameras recording, and it looked like the group of celebrities and everybody else that was there was kind of cheering them on. But then there was clearly people in there that were much more serious and kind of threatening, and the 10 new people were in the middle of this room being forced to do horrible things that I wish I could unsee. And the new people clearly didn't want to do these things. They were being forced to do these things. And they were clearly recording it. And I see my friend being forced to do these horrible things in front of these people and in front of these cameras. I just start panicking. As I get to the front of the house, one of the employees is standing there. And he's standing in front of a car and he has my phone. I'm not sure if he knows that I just saw everything. So I'm kind of standing there deer in headlights. But he just politely goes, "Here's your phone and here's your ride. Don't worry, the driver will take you home."
So that's this kid's story. A lot of people are saying that he came out and said his story was fake, but he does nonfiction stories. I actually heard an interview with him talking about this, and he was really frightened for a while. So maybe it's fake, maybe it's not, but these are the same kind of stories that I've heard from a lot of different people.
It seems sincere to me. What would be the motive to lie?
And this is how the next room, I don't know if you guys have heard about that. There's so many different actors talking about going into the next room. I didn't want to go into the next room, and there's just this continual thing. David, what do you have to say about this? Is this something that you've seen or heard about?
Gobs of times, and this is old, whether it's the satanic cult in the trailer court or the eyes wide shut elite parties selling your soul to the devil. It's as old as the pact with Mephistopheles, and that's what it's about. The bottom line: renouncing the true God and renouncing Jesus Christ. And until you do that, you're not going to be in with the clique.
Yeah, and that's so much how they keep control. And I'm going to play some more videos before I comment too far on this. I want to be able to do this entire broadcast tonight. It's going to be hard to get it all done. I want to get it all done for you guys because I think you're going to find some of this stuff interesting. So I want to play this next video, and the reason that I want to play it is because it highlights this idea. A lot of people, when they see P. Diddy, they think, wow, this guy is so evil. and he did this. But you guys don't understand this. Maybe you do. Hopefully you do. Diddy is 1 in a million, or not 1 in a million. I'm sorry. He's one of 1,000, probably more people that are in the industry doing this. And this is not just an industry thing. This goes way back. One of the first recorded instances of blackmail was against J. Edgar Hoover from I can't remember the Jewish mobster guy's name, but he held blackmail against him. This is the way that they operate in this industry. Well, this next testimony is from Pastor Rod Long, and he was a producer of Diddy's at one time, and he discusses a little bit about his transition from the secular industry into the gospel industry, because I want you guys to be aware of this. This goes on now more in the podcast industry, in the music industry, the Christian music industry, just as much, if not more, than it goes on in a P. Diddy party. This is real stuff that happens, and this is why you see some people rise quickly. This is why you see some interesting things happen, and if you're paying attention, you can tell. I don't need to tell you who all the people are that are involved, that are in this realm. You guys, if you're paying attention and you're not just trying to have your ears tickled and you're really looking for it, you're going to find it. So anyways, I'm going to play this.
So I know we're running out of time, but I'm going to hear this. What was it like going from the secular industry into the gospel scene? Because now you're saved, you let go of the secular stuff. Now you're kind of with the, forgive me for no better term, gospel celebrity or celebrated gospel singers.
Right.
What was that like? Was it easier? Was it better?
It's almost one and the same.
So you leave this scene, you go into the gospel scene, you meet your heroes, the Hoop Kingdoms. You're excited as well because this is like the P. Diddy on the light.
A lot of bangers on the cave
side. Yes. P. Diddy's on the light side.
Yes.
And now you find yourself in the similar kind of sexualized drugs world.
Absolutely. The spirit of it is the same. It's just a different face. The spirit behind a Diddy party is no different than the spirit behind any other party where you have the flesh on display. I think I had an easier time doing hip hop and R&B
and gospel.
I've had songs stolen. I've had people work my music off in gospel, whereas in R&B it was almost everything that they the payments were there, the royalties was there. I've had gospel people try to steal my publishing and my royalties. Yeah.
So I mean, there aren't a lot of people going to be excited to hear you doing this part of the interview, where we were just talking about the Diddy world. It's so easy to talk about the Diddy world because it's all in the news, of course, it's there, and it's kind of expected. I mean, he's called Daddy and he has a Daddy's house. So yes, it's like, I don't even understand why it's so shocking to people, except for maybe the child allegations. It's the church side that really saddens me. Of course, we all make mistakes. I have made a ton of them. But this seems a little bit more deliberate, a little bit more organized, and kind of a best kept secret of a cabal.
Absolutely.
Do you think it still happens today?
Absolutely, 100%.
So as you see there, and this isn't the first person I've heard this from. This is very common. When I did music, you would meet some of these people in these bands, and you would wonder why they're doing Christian music. You would think, why are they doing it just for the money, or were they doing it to mislead people? Because there were some very vile acts that would go on behind closed doors at some of these tours and some of these concerts that would make you wonder. And the idea that the same people that run a lot of these record companies are the same in the Christian industry shouldn't surprise you either. This is the reality of the world that we live in. And now recently, this is something that I want to bring to your guys' attention, because Hollywood and the movie industry, they continually are garner lots of views. But when you look at the news media and you look at alternative news, the ratings that CNN, we've had shows that had better ratings than CNN, and we're a NIUC TV, we did the Midnight Ride, so we've had shows that have actually outdone the shows for CNN. And so now when they look at people that are doing broadcasts like ours, we are the new news companies. We are the new ones, and so they're always looking for people that could be involved in this as well, and especially in the Christian industry. And I would say that it's actually worse in the Christian industry than it is in the secular, because Satan loves to transform into an angel of light, and he loves nothing more than to get it that way. The open satanic stuff yes, it's out there and it's very damning to a lot of people, but the secret stuff and the stuff that you don't see is actually, to me, more dangerous.
So I know we're running out.
So going on, I want to talk about more of the influence in Hollywood. One of the biggest influence of what we're talking about here, which is these sexual blackmail, is Aleister Crowley. And as you see that he's featured here on the Beatles album, Sgt. Pepper, Ozzy Osbourne has a song about him. This is Jay-Z at the top, which has been implicated in a lot of these things. It says, "Do as thou wilt." Aleister Crowley really impacted Hollywood with his views on sex magic. He started the Golden Dawn there, the Thelma, all of these different things. And a lot of Hollywood people have been...
Repentance is the furthest thing from their mind, Shawnee. We know that. It's such a shame.
Involved in this. And if you read, which I say don't read it, but if you do, you'll see that these rituals that he has taken and put in this book, which aren't his own, he's actually modified a lot of like tantric stuff and put it in here. But this is the kind of stuff that we're seeing at some of these freak offs. It's pretty interesting. And for those of you who don't know who Aleister Crowley is, he was a spy for MI5. He was also highest rank, one of the highest ranked Masonic people in the world, and also started different organizations, did different workings to bring forth Antichrist, called himself the Antichrist, and had his signature as the Baphomet signature, I believe, was his signature. So another thing about Hollywood that should give us a clue, if you're not convinced already that they're the Magi's behind it have gone south, then let's keep going here. So the Emmys, the word Emmy means adversary. The ones who put on the Emmys are the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. And if you look at the picture there on the very bottom, you'll see it is presented by the NATS. And if you take that backwards, what does that spell, David?
That spells Satan every time.
That spells Satan. So the adversary awards are done by the NATAS, and backwards that is Satan. It's interesting. And I want to read this verse because I really do feel like this is what we're experiencing in Hollywood. It says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry." And I really believe that's what's going on right now. It says, "Woe to him that buildeth the town with blood and establishes the city by iniquity." And if you look at the foundations of Hollywood, you'll find just that. It says, "Behold, is it not of the Lord of hosts that the people shall labor in the very fire, and the people shall weary themselves for very vanity? For the earth shall be filled with knowledge of glory of the Lord, and the waters cover the sea. Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, that putteth the bottle to him, and maketh him drunken also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness." Exactly what's going on at a Diddy party. A couple more things I want to tie in here. This is the 70th anniversary corn, which ties Donald Trump with Cyrus. And a lot of you guys remember how Donald Trump was tied with Cyrus in another way in establishing Jerusalem as the capital and being that. And they believe that he is a Cyrus. What's interesting about Cyrus is he was the last king of the Medians was Ushtavigu, which was his grandfather. And he was actually born and became the king of Persia at one point or another. And so he is of the lineage of the Medes. He actually took over the whole empire for the Persians, but he was born of Mede stock. So he has the DNA, the blood rolling through him. One thing that he did do was put an end to the Medes. And Donald Trump has said many times that he is going to change Hollywood. This is some of the symbols that represent Cyrus here. But these are the different articles here that talk about Trump and Hollywood, how he's the Hollywood tariffs and rails against Hollywood, and he's actually instituted his own like little Hollywood scene with Mel Gibson and a couple other people to check on Hollywood for him. So it's interesting that not only does he align with Cyrus in the Jerusalem thing, but he also seems to align with Cyrus in the media, because he has, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but he has taken over the media for the years. Even when he got kicked off social media, he was still all they could talk about. This man is the king of the media. And so it makes sense in a lot of ways to that. David, did you want to add anything before I move on here?
No, you go right ahead.
Okay, so another way that all of this stuff ties in is the music. So the medians were.
She yells to get on a bed. I let her on the bed. She stays there about a minute or two. I'm not exaggerating. She jumps off the bed, goes and checks if her mum's home yet, then walks back up here for me to pick her up. I've done it 20 times in the last hour and a half. Gee, she's high maintenance, but I love her. She's a good dog, but she is high maintenance.
Also good musicians. A lot of them were musicians. They used frequencies for music. They had they were putting on the plays. You see it in Plato. You see a lot of the different things that plays were a design of these people in order to captivate the audiences. They were the reason
That's her crying to get up.
Castles didn't get raided. They were the reason the kings could go out and do something atrocious, and somehow they would come out looking like roses. Well, these guys were the ones responsible, and so not only are they tied in the media, which music is a part of media, but they're tied in with a lot of other things too. But the music itself is very interesting.
Isn't that true, Diane?
David was able to ward off the evil spirit that was in Saul when he played his music, because the music that he played was of God. The music that he played was of a holy way that he played it. But there's a study where it talks about all of the different places that music affects the brain, and it's astounding how much music affects the brain. And a lot of the hip hop and a lot of these different musics come from an ancient magical practice in order to do sacrifices and different things along those lines. David, do you have anything to add about music and about that?
Well, there are just so many things there. The Ezekiel 28, the anointed cherub that covereth, what it looks like there is his body is actually a musical instrument, just the way that he was made. And so much of the role of music and mind control was used by Timothy Leary. He said these were the elements: drugs, music, and occult ritual was what Mr. Leary said, that he could turn a gay person straight or a straight person gay or anything, what he claimed.
Yeah, I believe it, man. After looking at some of these studies, it amazes me how we're not more messed up than what we are. I do know music played a huge role in messing me up in my life.
Oh, me too, I guarantee you.
Yeah.
I was all about that 60s psychedelic scene, I guarantee you.
Yeah, man. And when I was in the 90s, it was all about rebellion. It was all about punk rock. It was all about the hip hop the gangster hip hop had started. All of that stuff just really impacted my mind. But you see all these different genres here, and really when you think about it, each genre has a targeted effect on certain types of people. Like the hip hop industry is definitely targeted towards Black Americans, but it's also hits the white Americans. They actually buy more albums than the Black Americans do in the hip hop.
Yeah. And what does the CIA do when they want to break somebody? They blast that music into their ears.
Yeah.
It's mind control.
It really is, man. And when you look at like rock and roll, it's the same kind of stuff for other types of people. And even country music. A lot of people think country music is really innocent, but if you really listen to it, a lot of it is talking about, getting drunk, getting laid, and, doing the things you probably shouldn't do as a believer, but it's all like tied in with these, it's got the classical country sound, so people don't think it's as bad. But ultimately, all these tracks, from what I understand, from testimonies I've heard, and from even being in some major studios, there are incantations and spells that they do over the music before they even put the lyrics down.
Yeah. And it's disturbing to think about, but it's a reality. You were talking about the corruption of the Christian music industry. Christianity in America, or I should call it churchianity, is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And there are millions and billions of dollars made on the Christian music side. And these performers, they have agents just like a secular producer will have. And there was a young man, I won't mention his name, But he gave an interview where he said that the Bible says homosexuality is wrong. Well, he later had to walk that back because his agent told him that he couldn't be booked in the bigger venues unless he walked that back. And these groups are told that if you want to go to the highest level with the best gigs, write about, don't use the name Jesus, and write about God in generic terms. And that's the way it is. It's not very pretty, but that's the way that it is here in the real world.
Yeah, you notice they never say Jesus. There's always he has done this for me, or he, this and that. I noticed that too. It's very.
They could be singing about a doorknob for all we know.
Yeah, exactly. So, guys, to wrap this up, I want to read a scripture to you. And I want to say this before I wrap it up. I want you guys to share this out. We started an hour late, which there's a lot of people that aren't here that are normally here. So please share this out. And please pound the like button. We'll do the pound the like button here in a minute, but do it now if you're not going to stay to the end. So let me read this because I think this is exactly describes the world that we're in right now. So be careful. There's other people out there that do this. And this is something I used to know a guy that filmed everything. He filmed everything. He would have big parties and he would film everything that went down in that location. So it's not just Diddy doing it. There's other people out there doing it. There's a good book that I do recommend that you guys read that probably can't talk a whole lot about a lot of the stuff on there, but it's called Nation of Blackmail, and it's written by Whitney Webb. And you'll kind of understand that the blackmail has become a major part of this world.
Yeah, excellent book.
Yeah, definitely. So here we go. Let's read this. Romans 1:26 through 32. It says, for this cause, and the cause here is because they didn't see fit to honor God. It says, for this cause God gave them up to vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lusts one toward another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error, which was meet. And even as they do not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind, to do those things which are not convenient, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things. We've got some inventing of evil things for sure. Disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful, who knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death. Not only do they do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. So this is what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with a nation who has quick access to nasty things on the internet. Quick access, way more access than I had when I was a kid. I had to go hunt down a play.
Okay, that was interesting. You didn't really talk much about P. Diddy, though, did he? Diddy.
This is not a secret. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 provides a comprehensive description of what will happen at that time. For, since we believe that Jesus died and rose again, we also believe that when Jesus returns, God will bring back with him the believers who have died. We say this directly from the Lord. We who are still alive when the Lord returns will not meet him before those who have died. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout of command, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trumpet call of God. First, the believers who have died will rise from their graves. Then, together with them, we who are still alive and remain on the earth will be caught up in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so we will be with the Lord forever. 1 Thessalonians 4, verses 13 to 17. In the Greek language, there are two distinct words for air. One of the words is ether, which was later adapted into the English language as ether. The other word is air, which was used to refer to the lower air, which is adjacent to the Earth's surface.
Man,
This is the term being referred to in the text above. When it comes time to meet Jesus, he will be in close proximity to the Earth. It is hard to imagine anyone not being aware of the momentous occasion when the Lord is shouting, the archangel is speaking, and the trumpet of God is sounding. It will be a truly unforgettable experience. Some people say that the word rapture is not contained in the New Testament. Well, that claim is true. It largely depends on the translation used, since the New Testament was not originally written in English. The interpretation of certain words and phrases can vary. For example, in 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 17, the phrase caught up to meet the Lord in the air can be translated in different ways, leading to a difference in interpretation. And what about this word, rapture? It is a fascinating and captivating word. In the Greek language, it is known as harpazo. This word is used in several passages of the New Testament to describe the rapture. In John 10, the word is used 3 times to illustrate how a wolf snatches a sheep from the flock. This action is violent and abrupt. A hired hand will flee when he sees a wolf coming. He will abandon the sheep because they do not belong to him, and he is not their shepherd. And so the wolf attacks them and scatters the flock. John 10, verse 12. In Matthew 13, verses 4 and 19, the phrase snatched away is used to describe the action of a bird that descends, grabs a seed, and flies away. In the New Testament, this phrase is used several times to describe people being taken from the earth. For example, after Philip baptized the eunuch in Acts 8, he was snatched away. He was snatched away, Acts 8, verse 39. When they came up out of the water, the Spirit of the Lord snatched Philip away, and the eunuch did not see him again, but went on his way rejoicing. Paul speaks of a friend of his mentioned twice in 2 Corinthians 12, who was caught up to the third heaven, 2 Corinthians 12, verses 2 to 4. I know a man in Christ who, 14 years ago, was caught up to the third heaven. Whether it was in the body or out of the body, I do not know. God knows. And I know that this man, whether in the body or apart from the body, I do not know, but God knows, was caught up to paradise and heard inexpressible things, things that no one is permitted to tell. In Revelation 12, verse 5, it says, "She gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule all the nations with an iron scepter, and her child was snatched up to God and to his throne." 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 17, "After that, we who are still alive and are left will be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so we will be with the Lord forever." 4 times in other passages, the same word is used to forcibly take someone out of a crowd or a situation. Matthew 11, verse 12, John 6, verse 15, Acts 23, verse 10, and Jude 23. Here is a list of characteristics that the rapture implies will happen without warning, will be sudden and powerful. There will be no time to prepare. If we are not ready, we will miss the rapture, which will happen suddenly, according to Matthew 24. At that moment, 2 men will be in the field. One will be taken for judgment, and the other will be left behind. 2 women will be grinding at the mill. One will be taken for judgment, and the other will be left behind, as per Matthew 24, verses 40 and 41. The Gospel of Luke says that there will be 2 people in one bed. One will be taken and the other left, as per Luke 17, verse 34. Therefore, there will be a dramatic and sudden separation of people, even those closest to each other, like the 2 women working at the mill, or the 2 men in the field, or even the 2 sharing the same bed. When the rapture happens, it will take one person and leave the other behind. It is crucial to decide whether we will be taken or left behind. Therefore, let us be alert, pay attention, be cautious, and active in faith, for we do not know on what day the Lord will come, whether near or far. But understand this: if the owner of the house had known at what time of night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not have let his house be broken into. Therefore, you who follow me must also be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him, as per Matthew 24, verses 42 to 44. If the master had known what was about to happen, he would have stayed awake and vigilant. Jesus advised his disciples to always be ready, for we can never be sure when he will return. Jesus warned against presumption, noting that those who think they know the time of his return are mistaken.
Guys, you know how I troll the Catholic sites? They know nothing about the end times. They know nothing about the 2 witnesses, the mark of the beast. the Catholics absolutely know zero about the book of Revelation.
I emphasize this because millions of Christians have fallen for revelations that Jesus came on a specific day or hour, which is entirely contrary to his teaching. As previously mentioned, we find these words in Mark 13, verses 35 to 37. Therefore, let us always be alert, watching if the master of the house is coming at night, at midnight, at the roosters crowing, or in the morning. Let us stay alert, for he may come suddenly and unexpectedly and find us sleeping and unprepared. Each of the three main passages that teach about the rapture indicates that it is only for believers, including innocent children too young to believe.
Yeah.
Those who do not believe in Jesus as their Lord and Savior will not be caught up to the presence of the Lord.
Shawnee, they're very ignorant of the Bible as well. They don't read the Bible for themselves. They just must take all the priests' instructions, because really they're very ignorant about what's in the Bible, yet they're so passionate.
The rapture is restricted
No,
only
Molly,
to believers.
I'm not picking you up.
Only
Go
those
away.
who are followers of Christ will be taken to heaven when he returns. The rapture has the power to transform our lives. It is a source of personal comfort and hope. Paul wrote to the Thessalonians about this to alleviate their sorrow for their loved ones who had died. Death is not the end.
Time.
The effects
Come
of
here. It's the
death
last
will
time
be
I'm picking
reversed
up.
by the
Come here.
resurrection of the believers who died. Everyone who has lost a loved one to the sting of death can find consolation in the knowledge that they will see them again. However, it is also a source of strength. On the night he was arrested, Jesus promised his disciples that he would return for them. Number 2, the revelation of the final Antichrist. How can we identify the Antichrist according to the Bible? During the tribulation, a man known as the Antichrist will arise with the aim of unifying the world under a single authority. This tyrant, akin to his father, the devil, will initially appear as an angel of light, but will eventually reveal his true evil nature through his actions. Here are 6 answers to questions about this future sign of the apocalypse. Who is the Antichrist? The Antichrist is someone who opposes Christ. Anti can also mean instead of, and both meanings apply to this forthcoming world leader. While openly opposing Christ, the Antichrist will do everything in his power to live up to his terrible nickname. As Satan leads the world's forces to the Battle of Armageddon, he will persecute, torture, and kill God's people. He will become the most tyrannical leader in history, surpassing even Caesar. Although the Bible mentions the Antichrist by name only 4 times, he is referred to many more times under various identities, such as the beast, the little horn, and the man of lawlessness, the bringer of destruction. 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 3. And the wicked one will be revealed, whom the Lord Jesus will kill with the breath of his mouth and destroy by the manifestation of his coming. When he appears, people will flock to him like flies to honey and will do anything he asks. How will he unite the nations? The prophet Daniel describes the Antichrist as a 4th beast, with the eyes of a man and a mouth, uttering boastful words. He will speak against the Most High in a pompous manner. This description comes from a vision that Daniel had during the night, Daniel 7, verse 25. He will speak words against the Most High, and wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change the times and the law, and they will be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. As Daniel predicts, the next world leader will be known for his eloquence, which will draw the world's attention and admiration. Daniel foresees that the speaker will speak in lofty terms and blaspheme against God. The Apostle John agrees in Revelation, and the beast was given a mouth, the power of speech, uttering great things and boastful and blasphemous words, and was given freedom and authority to act and do as he pleases for 42 months, 3.5 years. Revelation 13, verse 5. It was given a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and it was given authority to act for 42 months. The Antichrist is described as a man whose appearance was greater than his fellows. Daniel 7, verse 20, and the meaning of the 10 horns, kings, that were on its head. and the other that came up, before whom 3 fell.
Shawnee, they're very nasty. And even when you show them the scripture, because they keep going on about the Queen of Heaven, but that's nowhere in the Bible, and they come up with all this bodgy scripture, they don't even know the scriptures. Oh, Molly, I'm sick of picking you up. I picked you up 2 minutes ago. Freaking hell.
This horn had eyes and a mouth, speaking great things,
That's
and
it. I'm
seemed
done
greater
picking
than its
you up. I'll
fellows.
put you outside
He
a
will be
minute.
extremely irresistible to the masses due to his charismatic personality, speaking abilities, and notable good looks. The Apostle John adds to Daniel's account of the Antichrist's blasphemous activities by stating that all living will be compelled to worship him, and it was granted to give breath to the image of the beast.
Why does yours say flexi? So I can change my flight whenever I want. Why would you want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to do that? You're weird. You're weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a shock, it's panic. What do we do? We've never had a claim like that of that size.
Running empty's a bit of a pain. At Origin,
so that the image of the beast could even speak and cause all who did not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Revelation 13, verse 15. And it was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast could speak and cause that anyone who would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. The Antichrist is described as a beast in Revelation 13, verses 1 to 8, which is a fitting representation in the last 3.5 years of the tribulation. The Antichrist will embody Satan himself, according to 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 9. The coming of the lawless one is by the activity of Satan with all power and false signs and wonders. The Antichrist will move from being a regional leader to a global tyrant, cruelly ruling over the world and ultimately claiming to be a god. Revelation 13, and the dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority. I saw one of its heads as if it had been mortally wounded, but its fatal wound was healed. And all the earth marveled after the beast, and they worshipped the dragon because he gave his authority to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast? Who can fight against it?" How does the Antichrist gain political power? His rise to power will be subtle and unnoticed at the beginning, even by those closest to him. He will emerge from among the common people, and the dragon, Satan, stood on the sand of the sea. Then I saw a beast rising out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads, and on its horns 10 diadems, and on its heads blasphemous names. Revelation 13, verse 1. And I saw a beast rising out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 diadems on its horns and blasphemous names on its heads. The sea in biblical imagination represents the general mass of humanity, or more specifically, the Gentile nations. The tribulation, as bad as it is, will always be under God's control. Satan is limited by a leash held by God. Who will worship the Antichrist? According to Revelation 13, verse 8, all who dwell on the earth will worship him. According to Daniel 7, verse 25, the Antichrist is a cult leader. He will utter boastful words against the Most High, will try to change the times and the law. He will try to exalt himself to the level of God and speak from there. In the third event, Jesus meets the Antichrist at the Battle of Armageddon. What will happen to the Antichrist as he leads the Battle of Armageddon is that people will become increasingly dissatisfied with the leadership of this global dictator who broke all the promises made throughout the Battle of Armageddon. Major parts of the world will begin to build their own military forces in an attempt to overthrow him. Significant segments of the world will start to assemble their own military forces and rebel against him. In the end, the king of the south will advance to attack him, the Antichrist, and the king of the north will come against him with chariots and horsemen and with many ships. He will enter countries, crush them, and pass through them. Daniel 11, verse 40. Some of the initial attempts at rebellion against the Antichrist will be crushed by him. But something happens that prevents him from achieving his goal of destroying Israel and Jerusalem. Rumors from the east and the north will alarm and disturb him, and he will set out with great fury to destroy and annihilate many. Daniel 11, verse 44. Then the sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up, preparing the way for the kings from the east. Revelation 16, verse 12. The Euphrates is one of the greatest rivers in the world, and with the disappearance of the Euphrates, the Antichrist will become susceptible to attacks from the rulers of the East. If the Euphrates disappears, its arrival will signal the beginning of the greatest battle in human history. Number 4, the seal of God and the mark of the beast. What is the seal of God in the book of Revelation? In the New Testament, the term sealed is derived from a Greek word meaning to mark with a private seal. It means to keep something hidden, to protect or preserve the sealed object. In ancient times, seals were commonly used in official contexts to ensure the authenticity of important documents. For example, a Roman official would attach a seal to a document intended to be reviewed only by his superior. Breaking the seal would indicate that the document had been tampered with or read by someone other than the intended recipient. The use of seals was an effective way to maintain the confidentiality and integrity of sensitive information. We see the seal of God in the book of Revelation, which is filled with visions and mysterious messages. It introduces us to the idea of God's seal in a very special and significant way. Revelation 1, verses 1 and 2 tell us that this is the revelation of Jesus Christ, his revelation of divine mysteries that God the Father gave him to show to his faithful servants, the things that will soon take place in their entirety. He sent and communicated it through his angel, divine messenger, to his servant John, who testified and supported the word of God and the testimony of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Bars, I keep saying I'm going to do Discord, but I never actually do. I don't know why I'm being so lazy, but I am. I'll try and get Gabe on it when she gets back from the hospital.
Everything he saw in his visions. This part of the Bible begins to explain the important messages that follow.
I will by the end of the day, Bars. I'll switch over and I've got to look for a server. I don't know how to do that, but Gabe should know.
Including the meaning of God's seal. The seal of God is like a special sign from God. It shows that God is protecting certain people who belong to him and are genuine followers of him. This seal is mentioned during the wild and frightening events in the visions of Revelation.
No.
It's important to know that this seal is not a physical mark, but more like a spiritual insignia. It's a way of showing who is truly connected to God and under his protection. God's mark appears during the tribulation, a future period of 7 years in which God will finalize his judgment on the unbelieving world. Throughout the word of God, the tribulation is associated with the day of the Lord, which refers to the period of time when God will directly intervene in the course of history to bring about the fulfillment of his plan. That day will be a day of wrath. It will be a day of agony and anguish. It will be a day of distress and devastation. It will be a day of darkness and gloom. It will be a day of clouds and darkness. It will be a day of trumpet and battle cry. The period of the tribulation will be characterized by a variety of divine judgments, turmoil in the celestial sphere, natural calamities, and horrific plagues. The 144,000 sealed servants, the 100...
Diane, I give you my word, I'll do Discord today. I'll get Gabe to do it today. I don't know why I'm being so lazy.
140...
When I see emails and that and servers, it sort of scares me off.
4,000 sealed servants are a mix of mystery, symbols, and promises about the end times. It talks about 144,000 of God's servants being specially chosen and marked for protection. These servants come from the 12 tribes of Israel. The act of sealing, as described in Revelation, signifies a divine mark of protection and ownership. In Revelation 7, verse 4, it says, "And I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 sealed from every tribe of the sons of Israel." The sealing process is not just a literal marking, but symbolizes spiritual preservation during times of tribulation. Each of the 12 tribes of Israel contributes 12,000 members, signifying completeness and perfection in God's selection. The number 144,000 is rich in symbolism. In biblical numerology, 12 often represents divine authority and completeness. Multiplying 12 tribes by 12,000 members from each tribe suggests an expanded completeness. Contrast with the mark of the beast. In the book of Revelation, the seal of God and the mark of the beast are powerful marks that represent the eternal battle between good and evil and the stark contrast between God's divine authority and the earthly power of the world. These symbols have captured the imagination of generations of believers and non-believers, continuing to inspire reflection and contemplation to this day. The seal of God. The seal of God, mentioned in Revelation chapter 7, verses 2 to 3, represents divine protection and ownership. It is given to God's faithful followers, marking them as his in a spiritual sense. Unlike a physical mark, it symbolizes a deep personal commitment to God and his teachings. Possessing the seal of God indicates spiritual protection during times of trial and judgment. It's a sign of being chosen by God, reflecting a life lived in accordance with divine principles. The mark of the beast. The mark of the beast, spoken of in Revelation 30.
Okay, this is what I did. I did not expect this to be this. I thought I was going to say prophecies for 2025. Let's see if I got that wrong. Nah. Okay then. Let's go to Tony. There he is.
Getting together for the big game. Cue the electrical storm. Cue the power surge. Cue your trusted teammate. QBE Insurance. Cover for things you've thought of and some things you haven't.
If we took a holiday.
Diane is a prolific poster here, so I'm looking forward to seeing Bas.
In Seattle at a ministry event, at a church event, no joke. We'll get into that. And it's been a big story, actually. A lot of people have been talking about it. We have a number of other stories to get into. Could we be seeing something rather strange coming up here in the summer? Well, we're already in the summer, aren't we? We're going to see some rather curious stuff. We have here Candace Owens talking a little bit about something rather important we'll get into, and a number of other big things that are now developing. Let's just get into this. Let's start here with this Bill Maher clip. This is kind of interesting.
Guys, the dog's here again trying to get up. Last time, I'm not picking you up 50 times.
The UK ruling on...
I'm sick of picking you up.
What is a woman? Check this out.
I'm going to lock you out if you cry again.
Everyone who said this for years has won. All the, particularly women, who's been defamed and lied about and bullied and chased and much more for years, they were right. And I just think, apart from being a statement of the obvious, isn't it amazing that the best legal minds in Britain spent years having to work out the first thing we knew as a species?
And that's kind of funny, man, because look at our society. It's so backwards at this point, and things just make no sense. We have here, of course, Jordan Peterson recently going on the Jubilee show as a Christian first, like I can't remember, it was 20 atheists, whatever it was. And of course, they had to change the title because he refused to say that he was a Christian, ironically. And then we have Joe Rogan, on the other hand, who used to make fun of the faith, now presenting himself as one in going to church and things of that nature. It's just like the world has completely changed in a short period of time. Now we have this Seattle worship service that was out in a park in Seattle that went crazy. Check this out.
Well, I can let you know this. In the last 72 hours, it has been the wildest 30 days of my entire life in ministry and outside of ministry.
It looks like Robbie Williams a little bit.
what actually happened is, like you said, this has reached the White House, it's reached the UK Daily Mail. I mean, it's reaching not just local and national, but international news. And so as a church, as a fellow believer, we always want honesty and the truth to prevail. And so we showed up at Cal Anderson Park, and as we were there, we actually received reports the night before that there would be some protesters. Now, for us as Christians, as believers, and just as Americans, we want every single person to have the ability to express and to take advantage of their constitutional rights, right? The freedom of speech, the freedom of religion. So we're welcoming protesters. We want any.
Didn't go exactly as they planned. Let's just put it that way. Let me show you this on the screen. They ended up having a bunch of protesters that pretty much stormed it, as you can see here on this picture.
Okay, Shawnee, thank you. But I got to admit, I don't think it's that far-fetched that Biden is a clone. I don't think it's that far-fetched at all. But good night, Shawnee.
Sure. One guy apparently ran up on the stage and tried to attack this dude. And so this was just a worship service, right? But apparently there's a number of protest groups there that didn't like what they were doing. And this apparently has become big news because it's just like,
Oh, and the more they clone Biden, the more stupid he got. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Wow.
Our society's become more and more like this, where it's so separated and people taking sides against each other. And then you got this weird one that happened, this weird service that happened in Germany, where they were using chickens, dead chickens, with, what is that, a diaper on it? I don't know what that is.
It's
so bizarre looking. They're using this in a church service. Let me play this real quick. What in the world?
They think they're smart asses now, but they'll go straight to hell for that. God will judge them for this chicken dance. Wow. And it's got airplay.
What in the world is going on here, man? People acting crazy, using apparently dead chickens for an act. As you can see there in church, very bizarre. People rushing the stage, trying to attack ministers, causing chaos. I feel like there's a spirit going on. You can tell things are changing as we go into the summer. Things are starting to become, the spiritual is becoming more obvious. It's out more in the open. It's no longer hiding itself. You're not in the secular utopia anymore. You're seeing things happen that don't make sense. Of course, now apparently the left is trying to recapture men to be on their side. The left needs men apparently now, after demoralizing them, after pushing them down, not caring about them. The white, of course, male apparently is more important than they realized because they actually vote, things like that, And apparently you have David Hogg and this lady, David Hogg, and then this lady that are going to be doing this. They're going to be trying to bring men back to the Democrat Party. I don't know how well that's going to work out. By the way, at the exact same time, David Hogg finds himself in trouble. He is under, he's basically being videotaped, undercover, doesn't realize it, and admits that our previous president was actually not the one running the show. Apparently, it was this guy, according to David Hogg there, the vice chair of the DNC. And now we have, of course, another thing here from our president where he talks about the auto pen. Check this out.
When you go further out, when you see the auto pen, I think the auto pen is going to become one of the great scandals of all time. because you have somebody operating it, or
which means he's going to put people in jail, I hope. As much as we're aware of Trump, I'd love to see him lock up the crooked Democrats first.
a number of people operating, because I knew Joe Biden. Joe Biden wasn't in favor of opening up borders, letting 21 million people into this from prisons and mental institutions and gang members. He wasn't into that at all. And you know, who signed these orders, proclamations, and all of the different things that he signed that set our country so far back?
I'm not picking up again. No.
Could it be this guy back here?
No.
Right here?
No.
Could it be this guy that was actually behind a lot of the signatures? That's the question people need to be asking themselves. Now, apparently, David Hogg himself knows the DNC might oust him, but he's fine with that. I guess he doesn't have a problem with what's come out. If I do get removed, it only proves my point, which is exactly true, because according to him, it was the DNC that was running it.
For the McLaren Formula One team, success starts by tracking over 14,000 paths with Smartsheet. With AI-powered workflows, every piece comes together to compete for championships. Smartsheet helps drive the future of racing.
Sorry, guys.
In the face of adversity, Caritas partners with people facing poverty, hunger.
So if the DNC kicks him out, it proves he was right, that they were the ones behind the pen, behind the signing of things. I showed an interview a couple months ago from someone on the right. I can't remember who it was, but they were talking on an interview and mentioned how he had at one time been speaking with Joe, apparently in private, and said, "Hey, why did you sign this?" And he's like, "I didn't sign that." Like, he didn't even know it was being signed. Like, literally had no clue all this stuff was being signed. Like, he's not all there, and they're just lying to him. And apparently before they were able to sit down in private, there was a bunch of other people in the room making sure he didn't say the wrong thing, right? So I'm guessing probably this guy here was in the room. Just a wild guess. I don't know. But like I said, we're going to get into actually a ton of stuff. We're going to get into this right now a little bit with regards to Candace. I'm going to play this clip in a minute because I didn't even play it in my previous video about a cyber, hacking, cyber attack of some sort where maybe we won't have, of course, power. Maybe some other stuff will happen, and we're already starting to see it. I'm going to get into that. In this video, I'm going to also get into some weird stuff going on with the plate tectonics. We have two different locations in America where you have some strange stuff going on with regards to that as well. I'll get into that also. First of all, I got to mention food supply, 25-year shelf life. Link is in the description, 3 months worth for $4.97. You're going to definitely want to get this if you have not already. It includes lots of different options. And this is the lowest price they've ever had in the last 5 years. Link is in the description for that. This book here, The Lost Ways, how your great-great-grandfather lived without electricity, had a bestseller, do things around the house like they did in the old days, hundreds of pages illustrated. You're going to definitely want that before the power goes out. You're going to be able to buy it at Walmart. Link is in the description. Get it, I think it's $37. Get the printed version. And, of course, my website, GR Videos. Also, X, we're trying to redo it. Or
why is he talking so fast?
Start anew and try to do a different method of using X to get some good information out that you won't see over here. So you're going to definitely want to go check out my Twitter X account, link below. Let's get back to the video. So we have here Candace talking about...
Diane, I wonder who supplied them drones, because everyone have given up giving Ukraine money, haven't they? Billions of dollars. I wonder where they got them drones from, because they've been at war for a few years now, and they're just about wiped out the Ukraine, no matter what they're telling you.
The World, Economic, of course, Forum predicting some sort of cyber thing happening. Remember, the last few times that they predicted something, it came true, usually within a few months. The reason I'm even paying attention to this and their exercise is because they are notoriously, this doesn't even make sense, they're notoriously correct. In 2019, ran an exercise, obviously for what we saw back then, the whole thing. The exercise she's referring to is, 201. I covered this, right? I covered this. Actually, I covered it when it was right before it happened. I said, look, they predicted this. I bet you it's going to happen. And then we saw it happen, right? Yeah, we covered it way back when. So let's just play this clip here and see what she has to say a little bit.
If they brought the power grid down. And by that, I mean the government purposefully brought the power.
I've been saying this. I didn't even see any posts from that forum. I've been saying this for a while. I've been talking about the fact that we had something happen 2 years ago in Washington State. And I said it looked like a test. Then we had what happened in Europe recently. I said that looks like a bigger test. What's next? Maybe it's here, the big one. Is that the next one? I've been saying that recently for weeks and weeks. So perhaps I am correct. Now we have the forum coming out saying this. Dr. Evil from Austin Powers. Well, he's gone now. That guy stepped down. Santa Claus stepped down. But you know what I'm saying? They got some new dude now. At any rate, so
power grid down. I'm not asking that question for fun. I'm asking that question because the World Economic Forum.
Your friends, of course. They care about you and the economy. They're your friends. Yeah, so they said that. Yeah, of course, also at the exact same time, we got the Didmeister in that trial. We got multiple high-profile celebrities are reportedly luring up, worried they might be called to testify. And I thought this comment underneath this post was pretty telling or interesting. You got all these Hollywood celebrities on a plane and our president saying, buckle up, blank holes. What was kind of interesting about our president recently, he decided that we're going to reopen up Alcatraz. We're going to apparently take over Rikers Island. And also, we're going to expand that one Guantanamo place. I wonder why he's doing that. Could he have some, secure hotel rooms, I guess, for these guys there? Hotel rooms. They got bars on them, I guess they're not hotel rooms. Not what they're probably used to. Not the lavish life anymore. But, of course, we have here Joe Rogan, kind of explaining how our president is the final boss. Check this out.
It's also like, they're like, oh, he's a crazy person. I'm like,
that
yeah,
guy.
that's the only kind of person that would survive what you try to do to him.
Right.
That's the only kind of guy that gets through. Like, you want a perfect person morally falls apart by the time they've been indicted and they've 34 counts, felony. Crazy person to get through. He's a nightmare. For anybody that's trying to rig a system, like that guy's the nightmare. He's the final boss
Of course, that's what he is, my friends. He is the final boss that they can't handle. And I'm really hoping he does not get tempted in any way. I kind of feel like some people underneath their president are starting to waver, starting to buckle at the knees. I hope they do not do it because it's going to make them look really bad in the end. Of course, here we have, I just typed in cyber hacking or whatever, and I got something rather interesting coming up here. Adidas and also Victoria's Secret both apparently hacked in the last couple days. That's kind of weird. This was a day ago. This was 3 days ago. We had 5 days ago, a massive one. I think it was all the internet and phones and internet were down in France. What was that? Was that maybe that was a week ago now. And then there was also in a number of other places in Germany, entire computer systems down. Again, 4 weeks ago, we had, the power outages in Europe everywhere. And then recently, we're starting to have them here a lot. I've talked about that there's a number of them here. And now, of course, then we have this whole world war thing that's being talked about. We got Newsweek here. And, of course, the former president over there, before the Vladmeister.
Did you know
We lose up to 15% of our muscle mass every decade. Ensures a nutritional drink clinically shown to improve muscle strength in 90 days. Feel the Ensure difference and stand for strength today.
It's not just a room, it's a haven, an escape. It's an amazing place. Let's celebrate. Every stretch, every split.
Is saying that
Yeah, Vas, I won't be streaming tomorrow. I've got a doctor's appointment at the hospital, so I'm not streaming tomorrow. But I'll be on Discord by tonight.
be careful. Be careful to our president. They're showing some ad. I can't even show his face. Maybe he's down here somewhere. Yeah, here we are. This guy. If you remember this guy, what's this guy's name? I don't even know what his name is.
No, go away.
Medvedev. That's how you say his name, apparently. This guy warning our president. This guy's the predecessor to the Vladmeister or Putin, and saying he was warning us. I'm curious what's going on with all that, because a lot of people are not aware. The Vladmeister was in I think it was a helicopter, and it was almost taken, of course, out. And that was like only a few days ago. A lot of people don't even know about that. And I was thinking maybe he thought we did that to him. And maybe that's why he's had this change of heart recently and started going kind of hard the other direction, like he doesn't want to solve this whole Ukraine thing. Could it be because someone almost got him and then he somehow thought it was us? Or perhaps it's someone who made themselves look like us to do that, to cause this to go forward to become something much larger, which obviously makes the most sense, because who has the most to lose? It's not the Vladmeister. It's not our president. It's the elite, of course, at the top that are losing their money. They're losing, of course, their power. The Forum, we just talked about them a minute ago. Why would they want hacking? Cyber hacking. Why would they want that? I wonder. Because they're losing their power. They have none now. Our president took it from them. Then they would want to somehow trick the Vladmeister to think we did something to him. We also have what's going on with Iran. They want to get that thing going. So our president's trying to negotiate a peace treaty. But of course, there's others that don't want that, do they? They don't want that. So this is all the stuff going on. And it's interesting because we have prophets left and right talking about all this stuff. You have Kim Clement from back in 2014 saying this summer is the big summer when a lot of stuff's happening. Strange July, hypnotic November. In the fall, many will fall. Now you might know why we have all those Alcatraz and Rikers Island prisons coming back. Maybe there's going to be a bunch of people, of course, gone soon here. Just so we can avert some sort of major thing happening and we can have more peace on earth, I mean, in a legit, I'm not being sarcastic, although I tend to be a sarcastic person. We also have a lot of other strange things going on. We have Canadian wildfires going on. Aerial footage shows massive smoke plumes from Canadian wildfires. This just happened 5 hours ago. So you got this going on. 17,000 people are told to flee in Manitoba. So you got that going on right now. You got something strange happening beneath the Mississippi River. Of course, the Mississippi River is very, very big.
Stretching over 2,300 miles from Minnesota to the Gulf of Mexico. It has carried sediment, stories, and commerce for centuries. But beneath its tranquil surface lies a foundation.
That's interesting. Look at its foundation. Obviously not entirely stable with the fault line there. They're finding out there's some strange activity at the New Madrid seismic zone east of the Rocky Mountains, Mississippi Valley. So you got that story, which is kind of curious over the last couple months. They've been monitoring that. You have also Mid-May this month, we had California rocked by multiple earthquakes along fault line poised for the big one. That's a different fault line near California. And we talked about the volcano that is a mile wide underneath the water off the west coast. And of course, how that line on the plates, the fault, lines up with the San Andreas fault as well. Could that cause something major to happen this summer? They're talking about that a lot. They said the volcano is 95% ready to blow. They're expecting it to happen next month, which is a day from now, pretty much. I mean, anytime next month they're expecting it to happen. If it happens, could it cause the big one? California, could it cause some massive thing to happen? It's a mile wide. It's not a small volcano. It's not a super volcano, but you might as well say it's one because it's pretty much. Here's another one that happened back, what was this, 2023, I think? You could see it from space, okay? This, of course, is not as deep. But the fact is, the one we're talking about that's supposed to erupt next month is on a fault line. It's between two plates. I think that's kind of important, kind of weird. We have a lot of prophets talking about this. I'm not even sure if they knew about these stories or not. It was weird because I put my video out first about this volcano, and then shortly after that, I don't know, like a few days after that, I saw a number of apparently prophets talking about this, saying there's going to be some sort of volcanic eruption. Actually, he said it 4 months ago. I'm sorry. This was before me. This was way before me. This is 4 months ago. That's interesting. Kim Clement, obviously way before this thing happened. Kim Clement's been dead for years. He predicted that. That's the guy that also predicted something's going to happen this summer. So you got a number of things. So technically I'm wrong. They actually predicted before I even said anything. So sorry about that. But then you have, of course, Kim Clement, a number of prophecies. And he even predicted the Revelation 12, of course, sign before it happened because he died before 2017. He predicted it back in 2009. He predicted a lot of things in his time that are now coming to pass. And I believe this summer is integral to our future. We're going to see a lot of interesting stuff happening in the next few months that's going to completely change, of course, our world. Then we got this story, The Last of Us TV show. I'm sure some of you have watched that before. The Last of Us viewership drops almost by, I think it was like 30-40%. And it proves why modern TV is broken. Obviously, it was a really bad sort of plot twist where they got rid of the main character, and then all that's left is this girl. They got rid of the main. I can't remember what the guy's name is. I only watched a couple. I think his name is Joel. Yeah, his name is Joel. I only watched like a couple episodes of it, but they got rid of him and it just kept her. And of course, then they tried to do their whole woke thing, which doesn't seem to ever work, does it? Not really. So their TV show, they pretty much destroyed it. And I guess they asked for it because, I mean, they've had every single thing around them telling them that's not a good idea, but they did it anyways. EA cancels Black Panther game, closes Cliffhanger game studio, close an entire studio, cancel an entire game because of something that happened. One of the lead, the dev team lead, basically came out and said that she only hired people that were, of course, Black, because she wanted it to be homogenous or something, and a safe area or whatever she was saying, something like that. Didn't work out too well. That video went viral in the wrong way. Ended up getting the entire game canceled and the entire studio closed. Not very smart. But at any rate, we're making our own video game. I've mentioned this before. Noah VR. It's also going to be called Apocryphon Genesis. We have 150 shares available for those who wanted to get involved and invest in the game to where they could actually get a return. 33% of the Noah VR profits will be set aside for all the shareholders that want a seat Those that have already gotten involved actually are going to make more than they did before. We added 13% more to it. You can also get another seat if you want, or get your first one. There's actually probably less than 150 at this point, but we haven't updated it because some people have gotten involved. $400, and actually technically we've already had 550 people, but now we're adding another 150. So I don't know how many has been sold. I haven't talked to my friend in a while, the guy that's the CEO of JIL Games, but at any rate, there's quite a few left still. It's the $400 to get involved. If you're interested, we're almost done with the game. We're going to have to do, obviously, beta testing and marketing, all that kind of stuff. But if you're interested, link is in the description. Kind of what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.
Okay, guys. I'm out. God bless.
This is all.